I think it's fair to say the currency and Bitcoin itself was more of an experiment that actually ended up taking off wildly. And 5 years later, you've got this, multi-billion-dollar market cap of Bitcoin. Now, so what else can be done with that? And really, it's a little bit like asking the question of, let's say, before Android came out or iOS. Let's take a more recent example. And what kind of apps can be developed? So it's really as much as your imagination. But I mean, the security issue, my personal belief, it is a short-term issue that will be resolved, and it is being resolved. There was a belief that e-commerce would never take off. This was a pretty fervent belief by a lot of very smart people, because nobody would ever put their credit card on the internet because of lack of security. That was the thought. And in fact, I remember, and I think it was around '99, Jeff Bezos had this famous quote saying, "Get over it." It's inevitable. We're at very much similar to like 1996, I would say. We're at the pick and access area where the money is being put into the companies that are foundational. And so this is foundational. So like, where do you store your Bitcoin is very foundational. We find it very difficult to find good companies to invest in at this point in time. There are only certain areas where you can be fairly certain that companies need to exist. Just like the internet, there'll probably be a crescendo at some point. There'll probably be a crash. And if you notice, most of the huge internet companies today, many of them, actually started after the crash. And when people actually learned lessons. And so what I do look for, though, when we are able to identify a company and what are the factors is, first and foremost, it's a team. It's a team. And we like to see, they tend to be very youthful, perhaps even more youthful than the internet was, if that's possible. And we're talking about 17, 18, 19-year-olds. That are coming up with brilliant ideas and that are brilliant themselves. But we like to see a team that has somebody that's also seen some other technology cycle, like the internet. And so, a mixture of the two. That's one of the things we look for. We're looking really for pain points. What are the pain points in the system right now that need to be solved? But there's a third component that maybe this won't work here. But if you can locate a place where it will work, and oftentimes it's in the undeveloped world at this point in time. There's about 1 billion people that are in the world economy, so to speak, and about 6 billion that are unbanked. And Bitcoin actually has the ability and potential to bring those people into the world economy. And so that's an exciting endeavor. In the Latin American market, we are actually very active in that market. We believe that is a prime market for so many reasons. They have many of the countries have currencies that Bitcoin makes them look stable. And the power of the internet slowly has been moving to our cell phones, because our cell phones have become little mini computers. But I think in the Bitcoin space in general, the cell phones are going to play a very big role. Because these 6 billion people, they don't have a lot, but it turns out a lot of them actually do have cell phones. A lot of people in the space are all but anarchists, and I think they'll come to some reality that the government still does retain power, and there will be regulation, and I think regulation actually will be very positive for the industry. The securities regulations that were written, essentially were written somewhere about 80 years ago. And they've all been just kind of amended over time. But if you look at the 33 and the 34 Act, we're still in essence riding off of those laws and what was in existence back then. And if you look at the financial industry, while there's been a lot of innovation, really if you look at it at a base level, it's kind of operating more or less the way it was 50 years ago. I think it's going to get to the congressional level, and they're going to have to realize, look, we're either going to have to make regulations that get friendly to this and allow innovation in this country, or it's going to go somewhere else, and we're going to lose a lot of other things with it. There are these core developers, so to speak, and I have a lot of respect for them, that are, it's Bitcoin or else. Nothing but Bitcoin. Then there's this other group, which I kind of think of as the crypto 2.0s. And that's the master coins of the world, and Nexts and those and the Ripples and all these other companies that kind of are working on top of Bitcoin. They're layers on top of Bitcoin, where they're utilizing the protocol, but then they're adding something very substantial to it, and that something substantial is really increasing its capabilities. And then I think there's a third theme where you mentioned Ethereum, and it's a company that's a project that's dear to my heart, and I'm a very, very close friend to the company, I would say. Well, what they're doing is they're creating really a generalized platform that any app can be created on. And so it's not just this financial transaction, but really you can create pretty much whatever you can think of, and it's very simple to create. There are things that took very long time to create on Bitcoin, where you could do it in 2 lines of code. They're making it very simple. And I'm not advocating them. There are principles behind them, and so that's another avenue where there's these generalized blockchains that can do a lot of different things. You're seeing all of these wonderful endeavors going on. They all have their own merits, and they all have their own place.